Alright, so this is going to be part 1 to what if Deku had John's powers from Unordinary Remastered. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Bow in the presence of greatness, 'cause right now that has forsaken us. You should be honored by my lateness, that I would even show up to this fake shit. So go ahead, go nuts, go.
So with this series, I wanted to kind of do a remaster of it for some time now, as the original isn't really up to snuff with my latest content if you haven't noticed. In that original video, I kind of used a lot of filler words when I didn't know what to say. These are just things like, well, right, and you know, things like that. And I used a lot of those filler words in that particular video, specifically the word rights. I get so many comments on just those words in general being in my older content, and always people telling me to, remove these parts or things like that. It seems like those people don't watch my newer content where I do really take those parts out. Maybe I miss one here or there, but for the most part, I try to improve that part. And that's why I wanted to make that, remaster version of it, because there's just so many flaws in the first video that I wanted to correct. Not only that, but I was also sick during the recording of the first original part, so I wanted to basically make it up to those who really like that series. So I was thinking of doing 2 different timelines for this particular series. Part 1, or the original, would be basically one timeline, while the other, this remastered version, will be another. And you guys can tell me down below whether or not you want me to do that. And with that being said, let's get over the kind of power, I guess, first. So in the original, I wasn't really consistent with the power and how it's gonna work, because at the time Unordinary was relatively new in terms of how John's powers worked, and there wasn't too much information on it, and it seemed like everyone had their own version of how the power should work, or how it did work. But let's go off of the evidence that we have in the series and how consistent it is. So with orb manipulation, we know it's a copy power and it could copy up to 4 things. A lot of people say that he has the power to keep these powers for as long as he wants, but that's not really the case. It's only until he deactivates powers when he loses it. Not only that, but a lot of people disagreed with me with this, and that is the fact that John can only copy powers that are visual. It's shown multiple times that he's only copied powers that are visual, and he's never really copied things that are not visual. Like, for example, things like future vision. There's been 2 opportunities in where he would have copied them, and 2 opportunities in where it would have been beneficial to him to copy it. Things like his encounter with Claire, his old friend, as well as the, I guess, new supporter girl that was that had some sort of type of future vision, but in both times he didn't copy it, never shown to, and never shown the ability to do it. So I'm gonna go with that version of the power since it's the most consistent and things like that. So let's get into the actual story. So Deku is gonna be a late bloomer in this one. I would say that he would get his powers around the age of 11 to 12, so around the beginning of middle school. So he would go to the quirk doctor again to check if he had a quirk. At the time, before, let's say around the age of 4 or 5, they were really inconclusive. So they said to check years later, as the data shows that he might have a quirk, but they're not really too sure. As if you remember, in canon, Deku had the extra joint in his foot or in his toe that gave the impression that he would never get a quirk, or that he didn't have a quirk, as that was part of some sort of evolutionary sign to show that he had a quirk. But since he doesn't have that extra joint in his toe, they believe that he has a quirk, but they weren't able to really detect it. So they said to come back later, maybe in a few years, which they do now. They would have tried earlier before, but again, they wouldn't have shown any progression of a quirk, but this time they do, but it seems to be something more interesting than before. It seems to be some sort of quirk that lets you know where quirks are or people when they use it. So he thinks that this might be really good for a hero, a type of hero that is good for search and rescue kind of events, such as the snake lady during season 3. I forgot her name, but basically she used her snake tongues to be able to sense body heat and find, survivors during the fight against One for All. So it's similar to that, where if people use their quirks, he's able to find them. So Deku's somewhat excited to finally know he has a quirk and to get this mystery behind him. But during these kind of years of not having a quirk, he's been pretty much bullied, just how he was in canon. So he's thinking to himself, like, wow, if I have a quirk, this bullying is gonna stop. Yeah, he thinks that the bullying is gonna stop just because he has a quirk, and he's really excited. But then he starts to think about it more, and he's asking himself, why am I so excited? Why should I have a quirk for them to stop bullying me? Why would they just change their mind so fast just because I have a quirk? And he starts thinking about this more and more, to the fact that these people will just change their wills on just an idea that he has a quirk, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't like how they would just change so suddenly just because he has some sort of quirk, and this doesn't sit right with him. He doesn't really understand it right now since he's so young, but he doesn't like the idea of that happening, so he decides not to tell people. And he tells his mom that he doesn't want to tell anyone, as he doesn't feel right about it. His mother agrees, as she wants to support her child, but they do have to register him as someone who has a quirk in the school, just for legal reasons and for, the obvious kind of record keeping. So throughout middle school, he doesn't really tell anyone, but this one incident occurs, and that is going to be Bakugo bullying someone. Now, Deku has been the subject of bullying before, so he knows how it happens and how it works and the effect it can have on other people. So this is going to be somewhere where basically just going to be Deku, Bakugo, and some other kid. So no, there's no one really around, as this is after school hours. So Bakugo is messing with this kid, and he starts using his quirk not as a way to hurt the kid, but to kind of intimidate him, using these sparks to kind of intimidate the kid. So during this entire process of Deku learning more and more about his quirk, he would eventually find out that he's able to copy his quirk due to his mother. So his mom would use her quirk, the ability of, I think it was like telekinesis or something like that, basically making things able to float nearby. Deku would be able to copy that in that kind of time where he's trying to learn more about his quirk. So eventually he does find out he's able to copy quirks, and they're a bit stronger than before. He doesn't know particularly why, but he wants to find out more about it. So Deku takes that Bakugo's quirk, he copies it, and he goes up to Bakugo, basically trying to stop the fighting, but not really confrontational. What he does is he takes Bakugo and basically slams him to the ground. He hits the back of his leg and uses his palm to kind of push him backwards, so almost like tripping him, and he used a little bit of the explosion to kind of push him even faster, and Bakugo gets slammed to the ground and he gets knocked out by this, as Bakugo wasn't expecting this to happen and he didn't know people were around. But since Deku does have aura manipulation, he was able to find Bakugo, and this is where he would see that he was bullying someone. So after that, this is where Deku goes home. He doesn't even talk to the person he saved, and the person he saved is kind of scared. He doesn't know what happened, but he is just thinking 1,000 miles per hour, and he doesn't know what to say. And Deku notices that the guy didn't say anything even though he helped, but he's not really thinking about this too much as he goes home. So this would continue, his normal life would continue, but Bakugo would eventually confront him, talking about how he could do that, because Bakugo, when he was getting pushed down, he would see a glimpse of Deku, as compared to everyone, Deku is somewhat normal and has a unique haircut and color of hair compared to everyone at his school, at least from what we're shown. So after that, Bakugo confronts him, and Deku is acting dumb. He doesn't want to give out the fact that he has a quirk, and basically tells Bakugo that he has the wrong person. Bakugo is dead set on this being Deku and doesn't really drop it. But Deku says, why does it matter? You know I'm quirkless, so why are you even picking on me? And that's where Bakugo kind of backs off, because he remembers the fact that he's quirkless, so he wouldn't be able to really do that. So Deku, we could skip ahead to the point in where it's the last day of school and he's going to UA, or he wants to. So during this entire process, over the years, he is trying to learn his quirk even more and more, and eventually he does get noticed by UA, in particularly basically the staff who goes and recommends kids. And I think Deku would get a recommendation just on the fact that his quirk is so powerful and his grades in school are pretty good relatively, so he would get a recommendation. So as everyone's asking or telling the class what they want to do, so that's gonna be like on the last day at school where everyone's choosing where they want to go. This is where a representative from UA would come through and basically tell the class, or not really the class, but ask the teacher on which one is Izuku Midoriya. The teacher would tell the representative, and the representative would just drop or give Deku a piece of paperwork and tells him that he's been accepted into the recommendation program and to go to the USJ to do the test at this later date. So that's going to be later on, in where he actually does the entry exam for the recommendation basically. So everyone's kind of confused at this happening, since Deku has always been known to be quirkless, and then this is where Bakugo remembers what happened that day, and he just starts he gets really mad, and he just does a little bit of explosions in his palm, and he doesn't know what to do. Like, how could this this nerd just keep so much information away from me? Why was I so dumb to trust him? And Deku doesn't really say anything to everyone, and he just kind of smiles and kind of lays back in his chair as everyone's kind of looking at him and almost angry at him that he kept a secret from them. And eventually Bakugo wouldn't really confront him at this point, and later on Deku goes home. He would go through the shortcut that he would normally go, and this is where he would meet the sludge villain and All Might. The All Might interaction would be a little bit different, as Deku in this one I don't think would be as sporadic in terms of meeting All Might like it was in canon. He would still be excited, as All Might would be someone that he would really look up to, but like everyone else in the series, he would still be a fan, but not to the extent that he was in the anime. After that, he would start his 10 months of training. So this is where I'm going to stop the video. If you like it, please give it a like, as this is a video that I wanted to do for a while, like I keep on saying. But if you made it to another video, please comment down CS so I know you support the channel. Please subscribe, as I'm trying to get to 7,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And with that being said, let's go over our patrons over on Patreon. As always, we're going from gold to platinum. So in our gold tier, we have Whatiferi, Dwayne Fenn, Isaiah Perez, and Lyco. In our platinum tier, we have Panaman 8. So if you want to join them and get my videos early, or if you want to get a drawing from me, you could join them at patreon.com/ComicSansTheMan. A link will be in the description, so you could go and join. It only takes $1 a month, and you could watch all my videos early, and you're able to support me financially. You don't have to, it's just an option for those who can or want to. So with that being said, let's continue the video. Hope you like it, and yeah.